What's up, my piano friends? Zach Gibbons here. Today we're gonna cover 5 techniques piano beginners don't spend enough time on. And I wish I would have known these from the get-go, because not only are these gonna save you boatloads of time, but they'll set you up with a solid foundation and roadmap, so you can learn piano the right way and not have to fix bad habits later on. And make sure you stick around to the end. Techniques 4 and 5 are absolutely crucial if you wanna have any kind of long-term success on piano. All right, let's get started. All right, so technique number 1 is mastering chords. And even if you master only this one thing, this is gonna unlock your ability to play hundreds of your favorite songs. And here's how it works. See, most people on YouTube are trying to learn songs with outdated sheet music, and this is a very slow way of learning, because they force you to learn each individual note one at a time. That's like trying to read a book one letter at a time. It takes forever. Instead, we can group letters together to form words, and we can read words much faster than letters. Similarly, instead of memorizing individual notes, we can group notes together to form chord shapes to learn 10 times faster. So let's say we're trying to learn All of Me by John Legend. Instead of learning all of these notes with the sheet music, we can group them together into 4 chord shapes. And we can find these chord shapes using a simple Google search and this simple cheat sheet. All right, so if we look at the cheat sheet, and I'll show you where to get this in a sec, let's just take 4 chords. So first, E minor, it looks like this. Then C major looks like this. Then G major looks like this. And finally, D major looks like this. And if we just repeat these same 4 chords over and over, you can play hundreds of your favorite songs on piano. Let me show you.
What would I do without your smart mouth? Drawing me in and you kicking me out. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Whoa, listen to your heart when it's calling for you. Hello from the other side. Shawty's like a melody in my head that I can't keep out. Got me singing like.
Isn't that way cooler than learning like, Mary Had a Little Lamb using sheet music? And ironically, it's just as easy to learn if you have the cheat sheet that shows you the chord shapes. So if you want more info on this style of learning and the chord shapes cheat sheet, I'll put a link to that video in the upper right and in the description. All right, if you like what you're learning so far, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps boost my self-esteem. And then all my friends will think I'm cool because I have a bunch of likes on my video. Just kidding. But seriously, smash the like button. It really helps out the channel. All right, so technique number 2 is learning arpeggios. And this is a technique that'll take the chords you learned in the first step and almost instantly make them sound more emotional and beautiful. All right, so let's take the 4 chords from section 1 and transform these into arpeggios. So first off, we have to add in the left hand. And this is pretty simple. All we're gonna do is play the letter name of the chord with our left hand. So for example, our E minor chord, we play an E. Our C major chord, we play a C. Our G major chord, we play a G. And our D major chord, we play a D. Now, I could play all of the notes at the same time in these chords. It'll sound something like this. So this still sounds good, right? But a little bit basic, right? And I kind of want to spice things up a little bit. So how about instead of playing all of the notes at the same time like this, we play them one at a time going up like this. And then just repeat. And then we take our C chord, and again we play one note at a time. And repeat. And then we take our G chord, same thing. And then finally our D chord, same thing. And with a bit of practice, once you speed this up, it's gonna sound like this. Doesn't that just automatically transform this into a beautiful sound? Now, there are a bunch more arpeggio patterns out there, and I have a video just detailing arpeggios for beginners. You can click that video here. All right, on to technique number 3, and that's using a song mapping chart. And if you're not doing this already, this is probably the number 1 thing you can do to save you tons of time. See, learning a song is actually pretty simple, right? We just break our song up into sections, intro, verse, chorus, etc. And we have to do 4 things for each section. First, we have to learn the notes. Then we have to speed it up from slow to fast. Then we have to memorize it. And then we have to add expressiveness and emotion to that section of the song. And if you do these 4 steps for every section of the song, and you cross off all of these boxes, boom, you have your entire song learned. Does that make sense? So when you sit down at the piano with this chart, let's say on day 1, you sit down at the piano and you learn the notes of the intro. So you just go ahead and you just cross off this box. Maybe you learn verse 1, the notes as well, you cross off this box. And maybe for the first chorus, you learn the right hand, but you're not quite there with the left hand. So you put in a little note that says right hand good here. And now day 2, you sit down at the piano to practice, and this is when it starts getting really powerful. Now, if you're not using this chart, what most beginners do is they just start back from the beginning and they relearn the intro, which is a huge waste of time because you've already learned the intro and verse 1. But if you're using your song mapping chart, you can look at your chart and say, okay, I'm good for the intro and verse 1. Let me start with the chorus 1. I'm good for the right hand already, so let me just practice the left hand. And then you can can start working your left hand until your left hand's good, and once it's good, you can cross off this box. And then maybe you cross off, you work verse 2, you get this one good, you get chorus 2 good on day 2, and maybe the intro, you work on the speed and you get the 2 full speed. And then day 3, you sit back down at your piano, and you say, hey, the intro, I already have it learned, and I already have it sped up. I'm not gonna work the intro, but maybe I'll speed up verse 1, and maybe you do that first. And then maybe you work on learning the bridge and you cross this off. And then maybe, chorus 1, you try to get up to full speed, but maybe it's not quite there yet. So you don't cross off this box yet, you leave it unchecked. And as you do this day after day, you'll have a complete overview of exactly which sections of your song you need to work on and which sections you don't have to. And eventually, of course, you'll cross off all these boxes, and once all these boxes are crossed off, boom, you'll have every section of your song learned, sped up, memorized, and added expressiveness and emotion, and boom, you're done with your song. And what I see all the time from beginners who don't use this kind of chart is they have their intro and their first verse really, really good, and it sounds awesome. And then the rest of their song sucks because they never practice it. Every day, they sit down and they work on the stuff that they already know just because it's at the beginning. So this chart gives you this kind of roadmap of exactly what you need to work on so that you can learn songs way, way faster. Anyway, this thing is an absolute game changer. If you want to get the PDF of a blank chart that looks like this, that way you can fill in your own sections and you can cross off the boxes. I'll put the link to that in the top right and in the description if you want to use this to learn your next piece of music.
If you like this very simple but also in-depth style of teaching, hit that subscribe button and then hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future lessons.
All right, technique number 4 is working on hand independence. In other words, how do I get my dang left and right hand to just work together? Now, this is the biggest struggle almost every single beginner has because of one simple reason. They're trying to focus on everything at the same time, and that's what I did when I was first trying to learn piano. Now, most beginners, they try to learn hands coordination while they're learning songs. So now they have to focus on the notes, the rhythm, the dynamics, the sharps and flats, the speed, and they have to get hands together at the same time. And so they end up super frustrated and start smashing their keyboard with a sledgehammer. Instead, it's way easier to have a set of hand independence exercises where the notes and dynamics and everything else stay very, very simple. And you can focus on just getting hands together coordination. And you can isolate and master that skill until it becomes automatic. And then the exercises slowly and gradually get more difficult until you're playing song level exercises hands together, no problem. And then when you go back to your song, it'll be very, very easy to get your hands together coordination because you've already drilled it in separately. Doesn't that make way more sense than trying to learn everything at the same time? Anyway, if you want to get the hands together exercises, I'll put the link to that video in the upper right and in the description. And finally, the technique number 5 is the one beginners always forget about, and that's working on your piano technique, aka your finger strength, dexterity, and coordination. And this is very important because good technique can solve certain issues almost instantly on the keyboard. Let me show you an example. Now, a lot of students struggle with what I call weak pinky syndrome, where they can play their first 4 fingers just fine, but their pinky always feels weak and uncoordinated. Maybe you have this problem, right? Now, most beginners try to solve this with brute force, right? And they think, okay, my pinky is weak. I just need to do these, finger exercises to make it strong and strengthen my pinky. And they spend years trying to quote unquote strengthen their pinky. And ironically, they just end up drilling in bad habits that are an absolute nightmare to correct in the future. Instead, let me show you how easy this is to solve with good technique. Now, if you look at your hand, you'll notice your middle 3 fingers are very long. And this way, when you curve your fingers and make them nice and strong, when you're playing, it's very easy to play these 3 nice and strong. But your pinky, if you curve it, you can't reach the note, right? If your pinky is nice and strong and curved, you're literally going to miss the note on the keyboard. And that's because people play with a straight wrist. Now, all we have to do to solve this is move our wrist down and out. And now look at our pinky. Nice and curved and strong. So all we got to do to fix weak pinky syndrome is rotate our wrist down and out when we're playing our pinky. And if you practice this for 3 to 4 days, you can solve weak pinky syndrome almost instantly without quote unquote strengthening your pinky because you're actually playing with good technique. How easy is that? But guess what? There are a ton of these little subtle movement patterns that make a huge difference in your playing. If you're interested in learning those and getting the exercises to drill those in rock solid in your hands, click this video to master your technique. Or if you're more interested in learning songs from the radio using the chord shapes cheat sheet that we talked about earlier, click this video and learn that. Happy practicing, and I'll see you in the next one.